Okay, welcome to the September 6th Wyndham-Raymond School District, Board of Directors meeting. We are in the Raymond broadcast module. It is 6:34. Nope, sorry. Yes, 6:34. Could I have a roll call, please, Mr. Superintendent?
You sure can. Kate Brooks.
Here.
Eric Colby.
Here.
Jenny Cummins.
Here.
Don Dillon. Diana Forslin.
Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Pete Hensler. Here. Anna Kenny.
Here.
Scott McLean. And Genevieve Dellon.
Here.
Okay, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. There are no adjustments to the agenda. I will open public input. If there is anybody that would like to speak on anything that is not on the agenda this evening. Seeing none, we will close that. First thing before we start, I would like to welcome our new high school representative for this year, Genevieve Delano, is a senior this year at Wyndham High School, and I don't know, you don't have a mic. Slide it over. So she will be here for this school year, and we're very, very glad to welcome you. So thank you. Thank you for volunteering. I hope you volunteered. All right, first on the agenda is an update on athletics from our director, Rich Drummond. If you would.
I brought this. I didn't know what type of
playing
mood
football?
everybody would be in tonight, so it is a little bit a part of my presentation, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Thank you for having me. Just a few things. I could really, whenever I get a chance to speak about the athletic programming, I could take quite a bit of time, but just some things that I want to bring to your attention and talk about tonight. First of all, we're up and running. We're, opened up this year, and we started a little bit earlier than the start of school. For the high school, we opened up on August 14th, which this year really came early as opposed to years past. So although the kids were excited to probably get back into the grind, double sessions really kind of took a toll on them. But in any event, we're here, classes have started, and structure is definitely a good thing. A little background about that this may or may not help understanding the athletic department, but as everyone knows, we're a Class A program that consists of 2 middle schools that I oversee, and the people that I work with help to oversee and manage. We have over 24 different programs district-wide offerings that between the high school and the 2 middle schools. We have approximately 75 teams throughout the district that are sponsored by the school. We have over 90 coaches in the athletic department, including volunteers. A pretty staggering piece of information here. We travel approximately 20,000 miles a year for athletics through between the 2 middle schools and the high school, and that's anywhere from pre-season to postseason, and that's a lot of mileage. You'll find that that's comparable to other districts. If you look at schools down east on the East Coast, where demographics and geography plays a greater role, I bet their mileage is probably triple that. So we service approximately about 800 athletes a year, give or take, and that's grades 6 through 12. And the athletic department, we schedule over 600 athletic contests during the course of the year. And we, in scheduling athletic events, we have anywhere from officials to manage, media, which is more at the high school level, coaches, game support, fans, staff. So it's to run an athletic department, as we all know, it's really a team effort, and it's a large operations. So those are just some basics of kind of what makes us tick and a little bit of information. I'd like to start off, one of the topics that I wanted to just touch upon is the athletic boosters. They provide a lot for our school, and it's not necessarily the fluff and all the things that we want or need to make us look good. It's definitely things that we need that are important for the school, important for the athletes and the teams that the athletic budget just can't provide. Some quick examples. Last year they purchased swim jackets for the swim team. Recently they bought the cheerleaders pom-poms. They purchased golf bags for our golf team. They provide senior flowers at home games for the last game of the year. They do playoff luncheons. So they do a wide variety of things and support a wide variety of events. And not only do they support, you know, the athletic programming, but they also go over and beyond. They've helped to subsidize and work with Special Olympics. They've done a lot of different things that is just remarkable. One of their recent projects that they have taken on, and I presented, I believe, last year, was the brick project that I brought before the board. Right now there's approximately 70 bricks that are in place at the school. Recently, working with the boosters, they did, you know, a few things cosmetically to maybe beautify it a little bit. And I know that that might bring some questions, and which I'm willing to answer. But right now, there's 70 bricks that are in place. They're taking orders for the next round. Depending on the timing and weather, we don't know if we'll be able to get them in right before snow flies. If not, definitely in the spring. And it's our plan and intention and hope to really line that embankment. I don't know if everybody has seen the location, but to really line that embankment leading down to the stadium. And I think eventually, you know, it's like anything, you know, strength in numbers. And I think once they start multiplying and the word gets out a little bit more, I think it's going to be a great addition to the campus. Another item that I'd like to talk about is there's been a lot of talk in the media about concussions, and really at the high school level, well, not only at the high school level, but more specifically with football. So what I did tonight is, this is a helmet that, and I can pass this around. Don't worry, I didn't take it off a kid, so there's no sweat or anything. It's clean. It was refurbished over last spring, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I'd really like to talk about what we do at the high school level to manage concussions, to try to you know, have a little preventive maintenance in that area. There's a concussion policy here in the district that is in place, and our coaches follow that to a T. And then it really kind of segues into, there's an academic component with that our athletic trainer and our school nurse, that if there's a concussion sustained, there's a protocol on schoolwork and getting back into sync with school. And I feel it was really mandated at the state level to have a concussion policy in place, and we do. We were early with it. We had a lot of team players, and I really like the policy that we have. I frequently get requests, you know, if people or schools revise their policy, to take a look at ours. And that's always nice if they're seeking you out for some information and some answers. But we have our concussion policy in place. I also require, and the state requires, that coaches become NFHS certified in concussions. And what that is they have to take an online course, and they have to pass a test at the end of it to be able to coach in the state of Maine. And it's really about, you know, how to recognize a concussion, how to treat a concussion, more sideline type symptoms, and really what are the next steps that you do if you suspect a child's concussed. And it really kind of is a great tool to have that certification because it's really in line with our concussion policy. We provide before each season, we have mandatory coaches meetings. Our athletic trainer has a few minutes in the agenda to speak to concussions, the policy, and there's some added training at that point as well, which is always beneficial. We also provide, and not all schools do this, but we provide testing for the athletes, which is called impact testing. And we do that as freshmen and juniors, and I believe these two students have done them in the past, or they should, and I know you did. But really, what that is it's a test through the computer, and they take it, it's online, and it really just gets a read and an assessment on brain activity. And it creates a baseline for where you're at, not as far as your intelligence, but where you're at with brain activity. So if and when we ever believe that you might be symptomatic, that the athletic trainer and also the physician, OA here in Wyndham, they'll look at that to see if there's any change from your original baseline. And they use that to really determine when is a safe time for an athlete to return to play. And we have a return to play protocol with athletes and concussions. We do it freshman and junior years. We don't do it every year, but we do it first thing when they enter the high school. We do it their junior year, and really we do that because there's still growth between those years. So if a kid takes it as a junior year, we look at it as if their brain activity will be, not much of a change between that time and their senior year. In particular with football, and why I brought the helmet, is arguably there's no helmet that will really help. You're not going to avoid concussions. There's no secret, pad. There's no, face mask, anything. It's really, a helmet is really geared to try to help. It's not, and yes, prevent, but there's just nothing made. If somebody did make it, they'd make millions. But this is the helmet we use, and the company, the manufacturer is Rydell, the line is Speed. And in doing my homework and working with Coach Perkins and the rep that we work with, this is amongst probably the top 3 or 4 helmets that are on the market that our kids are wearing at the high school level for concussion management. So I feel very lucky about that. You'll notice, and I'll pass it around, it's much like, you'll notice these little air holes on the top. There's one down here on the side, and there's one here on the other side. It's much like a basketball, soccer ball. They inflate this, and they inflate the bladder in the helmet. And that's how they size the helmets for the kids. Yes, they come in small, medium, and large, but you have to inflate the bladder properly to make sure you get a great fit. With that said, we're very lucky because a representative from Rydell that comes and fits us is also the New England Patriots manager on game day in Foxborough for home games, and he works as the equipment manager for the Patriots. So it's a really great connection to have. He's really well adverse. If you watch tomorrow night, you'll probably see him on TV. He's the one in no pads that's probably about that tall. His name's Kevin Salito. So he comes in June when we get ready to pass out equipment. And not a lot of other schools do this, but he sizes every kid at the high school level for a helmet, which is, it's good because you have a professional do that. What we do then from there at the middle school level and the youth level, it's not offered through the high school football. It's not sponsored through the high school. They're their own entity. But our high school coaches will go down and size the youth kids through the instruction that was provided through their sizing. So it's kind of a trickle-down piece with concussion management. Also a nice feature with this helmet is if you look at the back of it, it will say initial season 2011. And then above it, it will say certified in 2016. And if you pull back one of the ear flaps here, when it goes around, you'll see the number in there. And what we do is we track these helmets. So if, John Smith had this helmet and there was damage to it, we know, I receive a report on each and every helmet that is in our inventory. So I know back in 2000, say 12, that this helmet might have been questionable at the time. And then there comes a time, and I believe, I'm not sure on the number, but I think the shelf life is 11 years. After 11 years, they're done, and we don't use them. And that's not really a Wyndham High School per se requirement. It's the practice of really a lot of the public schools in our area. So I can pass this around. Funding for the helmets, for our football helmets, that helmet that's going around, that's probably about a $300 helmet. And that I don't purchase, or I shouldn't say the district doesn't purchase that through the athletic budget. The football program, with their fundraising and efforts, and I'm sure you've all been hit up before with their cards that they sell, all that goes to fund something like that. So with the reconditioning that we send out every year to get the helmets recertified, cleaned, and that is clean, I'll reemphasize, that the reconditioning the district does fund for. So those are just two quick items that I wanted to reference. The athletic boosters, I wanted to talk about concussions because it's not going away. You can turn on the TV, any piece of social media, and concussions is leading the talk in athletics, and rightfully so. And I talked a little bit about, understanding our athletic programs. It's a department that, the athletic department, it never really shuts down. We offer programs right through the summer, and we're really helping the coaches manage summer programs. It's not mandatory, anything that, we say to be a varsity coach, you have to run a summer program. But I honestly think, and the coaches feel, that to build a program, to offer opportunities for the kids in your communities, it's an extension, and it's something that they want to do during the summertime to offer the kids chance to improve. The athletic department in many ways can definitely be a face of a community. We have coaches that have been recognized locally, at the state level and nationally. We've had the luxury of having some very high profile athletes in a numerous of different sports play at, whether it be Division II, Division III, Division I. We've just had an athlete that graduated last year that's on to Fairfield University on a full athletic scholarship for cross country. So we've had some kids that have gone on to do great things. But, in closing, the things that we really try to do and try to preach is it's an extension of the classroom for sure. And it's not win at all costs. We do like to have a competitive model and put the best product out there, but it's not win at all costs. It's a byproduct. If kids ever get the opportunity to, and it's rare, but to hold a gold ball or whatever it may be above their head, that's wonderful, but it's also just as wonderful possibly the journey that they took to get there. So there's a lot of good things going on. I appreciate you having me. I can field any and all questions. If you want to try on the helmet, I'm not really certified in the size thing. But those were the two big hot topics that I wanted to reference, and concussions being the first and foremost.
How much does that helmet weigh?
That's probably a good...
It's heavy.
I'd say probably 8 to 10 pounds.
That's what I'm thinking. You got this poor little kid that might like weigh 100
Yeah.
pounds. And, you know, skinny little kid is kind of.
And I'm surprised, the question hasn't come up yet, but I'll tell you, yes, black is not one of our school colors. We used to have all white helmets, and we got them painted. The reason that we did that with the white helmets, we found that based on the school that we were playing a team where their colors were purple, our white helmets would get purple on them, then red, then possibly orange. And it was constantly, we were buffing and scrubbing, and finally, it was a recommendation from the gentleman, Kevin Salito, if we went black and painted them, and it was a very minimal cost, we would probably really like it, number one, and the longevity would help. So that's the history behind going black with the helmets.
Rich, thank you for coming to present tonight. I always enjoy hearing that. A couple of questions regarding the concussions. First of all, it sounds like the coaches are very well educated on concussions, but how much information is given to the student athletes other than knowing that they have to go through a baseline test? Like, how much are they informed about what the possible long-term effects of concussions are?
Yeah, to answer that, we have not done, we always used to bring in Doc Bean as a guest lecturer, and Dr. Bean is out of the Wyndham office. Right now, a kid would say, well, why am I taking this concussion test? What do we do? And the athletic trainer will answer that on the spot, but to really roll it out and educate and kind of in a lecture type, we haven't done that for a while. So that's something that, it's usually, we might be a little reactive on educating people if they sustain a concussion, and this is why we do what we do type thing, but we haven't really put it out there as far as the educational piece. I think that the general population has a good feel for it, maybe in the football community, but if we do our concussion baseline test for our golfers, and the kids on the golf team, and they're like, huh, what? So it's an opportunity to really somehow, if we could educate maybe a little bit better as to why, that'd be a good piece.
All right, and then along those same lines as well, I'm not familiar with the intricacies of the policy itself, but is there anything in the policy or in your protocol where if an athlete is subjected to multiple concussions that there's a longer period of time that they're out of activity? Or
Yep. No, there isn't anything in the policy, but yes, to what you're saying, each concussion is different, and it's really up to the athlete that sustains the concussion, the doctor, and the family. And what will happen is we've had some kids that have sustained, we had a kid that a few years ago sustained 6 concussions.
Oh my gosh.
And it came to his senior year, and the doctors cleared him, and the parents cleared him, and he was allowed to participate. We've had some kids that have sustained probably 2 concussions, and the doctors have not cleared them. So in the policy, we don't list, a number as far as the threshold. It's really up to the individual, but more importantly, it's really up to the doctor. So the doctor will really be the one who carries the weight. We've had some doctors that have not cleared kids, and we've had to have some tough discussions with the parents, because the parents might want them to still participate. So.
all right, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know on the swim team, there were 2 kids, believe it or not, at practice, and they swam into each other, and
Yeah.
and one of them got a concussion because one was coming this way, one was, and
Yeah.
they weren't where they were supposed to be, but that's beside the point. But they can get it anywhere. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what
It
you're in.
happens. It happens, and I'd have to think long and hard. I don't think we've had one in golf, but just about every other sport they're there, and it's really, it's kind of, it's not funny, but it's odd at times, because some years they just seem more, you know, abundant, more prevalent, and other years it's, you know, you have a few, but it's not off the charts. And the coaches, yes, they, you know, they learn different strategies and different techniques, and they train differently from time to time, but overall, it's not like a lot of them are doing different things or different drills. So it's one of those things. Hopefully we don't have a lot of them, but we'll have them. It happens.
I would like to see us have more education on concussions, because as you know, it's not just helmet to helmet. I mean, I know that's not allowed, but it's also can be just, you know, a rough tackle and you fall down and hit your head. I mean, there are so many ways that you can get a concussion that I think that more education on the symptoms and the, you know, the things that you should be aware of at home is I think that's very important.
Yeah.
I also question why we are not paying for these helmets. If they are, I mean, I think the helmet is the vital part of, you know, protection. And I'm certainly not an advocate for us spending more money for things, but I think that the helmet is something that we, you know, that we should be paying for. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yep.
Not trying to second guess. I'm just
No,
saying
no.
that I think it's very, very
I understand.
important.
Going back to more information for the students,
Yep.
and this is just a thought, because they have health class in the middle schools, you know, is there, and I guess that's directed to you, Sandy, is there a possibility of being able to work that? Because middle school would be great, because then they'd be getting
Yeah.
it earlier before they, although some kids are pretty involved by in kindergarten, for crying out loud, but still, they have health class already, so it's not, and it wouldn't be an additional, it's just a thought.
Yeah, I'll pass it on.
And that's something too, Marge. That's a great idea. But I wouldn't even mind going in and speaking to that, or the athletic trainer, or something
Yeah.
to help with that as well. And it wouldn't be anything that would really set the class back within progression and moving along. That'd be great.
Yeah, I just think it's important that they understand the risks before they get involved. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no concrete evidence of what the exact long-term effects of concussions are, but there's enough evidence of what's possible, so, with CTE and everything else is in the news.
Yep.
You know, I saw a thing on, was it a short piece of medical thing, and I don't remember what program it was on TV, and it was on concussions, and it was on a thing of, they were changing their thinking a little bit, and they wanted people to start moving around more after and not be sedentary. I don't know, is that ringing a bell at all? I didn't quite get it. I said, it sounds a little weird to me, because usually after a concussion, I don't think you feel so hot, personally.
Yeah, you know, in a lot of the information that I receive, you know, what I do from the doctors, it's all,
Yeah.
you know, trying to avoid bright lights, it's trying to
Right.
avoid brain activity. It's just basically trying to rest, to rehabilitate. I haven't heard that, but, you know, Marge, things change so often. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I thought it
if-
was a little odd. It could have been another country for all I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, are we, Kate?
I want to thank you for all your efforts. Sports is really the face in many ways of the district. It's the most visible, not only to parents and students, but to community members. And I think you've done a stellar job, and I want to thank you. And the biggest indicator for me is the sportsmanship awards that so many of our teams have been awarded. And that doesn't happen by accident. That's because of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody get anything else? Wow, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you. No problem. Thank
Would you like your helmet?
I can leave it here if you.
No, I
It's
really-
not assigned to a kid,
it's
so we
really
don't need
very
it
heavy
Friday.
for a
night.
paperweight. I think I would have no use for that. I couldn't even wield it as a weapon. Thank you for bringing it, though. Show and tell,
Yeah.
we just love show and tell. Gives a little more substance. Okay.
Put the helmet on.
Might wait it out for a
Is it, oh, yeah, it's pouring out, right?
You did.
You know what, you can always like hang around for a couple more minutes, maybe we'll slow down. But anyway, all right, moving on. Next on our agenda, we have to do a vote regarding the disposition of additional state subsidy and revised warrants and installments. This is, whoa, it's pouring. This is something we've done. Dawn, can you give a brief update as to why we're doing this?
I'd be happy to do
Again.
that. So, as people know, the budget was voted in May for the district, and the legislature at that point in time hadn't fully vetted the biennial budget. And so through deliberations, we were very fortunate that our local legislatures, as well as the larger legislature, did allow for additional money to be sent to the local school system. So what happened was the district took its vote and made its assessment warrants to the communities based on the May and June elections. But then later on, as we learned that we had the money, we now are in a place where the board had to make a decision as to what to do with that money. And for the public's benefit, that number was $664,000. And the board did determine to send 82% of that back to reduced taxation, which is in the realm of $544,000, which is apportioned by the funding formula that is derived at the state through its central programs and services. So in discussions with the attorney, initially we were thinking that you wouldn't need to take formal action because after all you already have assessed for a higher amount and you're going to be actually seeking a lower amount. But the assessors wisely had looked things up and said, you know, I think legally for us to assess taxation within the communities, you folks really need to take more formal action. So that's why you didn't take the action at the very outset when you were educated about this. So tonight we're going to ask you to please do that so that we can send an official new warrant to the communities so that they will have the legal backing to assess the taxes based on the lower number.
So there's nothing different in this than what we already approved
Nothing
before.
different.
It's just, we're formalizing.
Yes, just right. It's kind of perfunctory, but it's important.
So if somebody could read through,
Not
so
it.
we have it on record.
I'd love to.
Thank you.
Whereas on May 24th, 2017, Regional School Unit 14, RSU, adopted its fiscal year 2017-18 budget, and on June 13, 2017, the RSU ratified that budget validation referendum, herein after the approved budget. Whereas the approved budget included Article 19, authorizing the school board of the RSU to use all of any additional state subsidy received after approval of the approved budget to increase expenditures for school purposes in cost center categories approved by the school board, increase the allocation of finances in a reserve fund approved by the school board, and/or decrease the local cost share expectation as defined in Title 20-A, Section 15671-A, 1B, for local property taxpayers for funding public education, as approved by the school board. Now I wish I had that water. Whereas, pursuant to the Maine Department of Education ED 279 report for public funding education, dated February 16th, 2017, the state subsidy amount reported and used for revenue for the approved budget was $14,559,431.26. Whereas, on or about July 4th, 2017, the legislature enacted the biennial budget bill including additional funding for public education. Whereas pursuant to the Maine Department of Education ED 279 report for funding public education, dated July 18th, 2017, the RSU will receive state subsidy in the amount of $15,223,650.68. An amount which is $664,219.42 greater than the $14,559,431.26 state subsidy amount reported for revenue on the February 16th, 2017 ED 279 report and used for the approved budget. And whereas pursuant to Public Law 2017, Chapter 284, Section JJJJJJ-5, and related guidance from the Maine Department of Education, the school board is authorized to use the additional state subsidy as authorized by Article 19 of the budget meeting. Now therefore, the Board of Directors of the RSU hereby votes to allocate the additional state subsidy as follows. $120,200 to increase the 2017-18 appropriation for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment Cost Center. $168,646.02 to reduce the town of Raymond's educational tax assessment for the 2017-18 fiscal year, and $375,373.40 to reduce the town of Wyndham's education tax assessment for the 2017-18 fiscal year. So I move that the vote entitled Vote Regarding Disposition of Additional State Subsidy and Revised Warrants and Installments be adopted in the form presented at this meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Comments from the public? Any more comments, questions from the board?
Did you have the correct amount of J's in that?
She did.
Yes, she did. Pete counted. Okay, all those in favor? It is unanimous.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're unanimous. Okay.
Any opposed?
Opposed? One opposed.
The Board of Directors also votes to approve the revised warrants for assessments of regional school unit tax and assessment schedule and notice of installments for each town in form presented at this meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? From the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, it passes. So everybody is aware, don't leave when we're done because we have to sign the warrants now that we have voted on them. And they're the only copy we have.
Thank you.
Don't take them out in the rain.
That's what I was told. All right. Next on our agenda are policies. If I could have a motion, and this is for the second reading of the athletic co-curricular eligibility.
I move to approve the second reading of policy IGDJ-athletic/co-curricular eligibility.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? Anything from the board? Do you have anything? And this is the second reading, so we've gone over this previously.
It has all 4 pages.
Yes. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. And the next one?
I move to approve the revision of policy JL, wellness.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second on that policy. Kate, you want to give a brief?
Sure.
Thank you.
Donna Morton, who is our wellness coordinator for the district, informed the policy committee that per communication with the state, we needed to make a little tweak into our policy, and that was communicated to you earlier. And in the policy that you've received in your packet, we've redlined it again so that you know exactly what was changed. It's very minimal. And because it's so minimal, we just want to be compliant, but it's so minimal that we didn't feel the need to have a first and second reading, just go through a revision. And so that's what we're presenting to you today.
Okay, is everybody all set? Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Okay, next on our agenda, we have appointments. If I could have a motion, please?
I move to approve the following appointments for the 2017-2018 school year. Emily Atwood, foreign language teacher at Wyndham Middle School with a BA, and her salary is $34,958.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is this a replacement?
It is.
What
Okay.
language is it? Anyone know? Just curious.
One that's not near here.
I do not know. We can find out though.
It's not gonna influence how I vote, I'm just
I know, you're just curious.
I could probably shoot an email over there myself and find out.
There you go. Okay, any comments from the public? Anything from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Okay, report of the secretary, motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 28th, 2017 meeting.
Second?
Okay, any comments from the public? From the board? Pete, did you check them out good?
Yeah, they're good.
I hope, I have faith in you. Okay, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Okay. Before we start committee reports, I have got to ask, because we never have an audience. So I want to thank you for coming. I don't know if there's anything in particular you were here for.
So, I'm here because I need to attend a meeting for Boy Scout merit badge.
You know what? Why don't you come up to the, come up to the,
Get on TV, son.
as you get older, you will do this more. If you could please come up to the microphone and introduce yourself and just give us a brief explanation of why you're here. We would appreciate it. Thank you.
My name is Boden Sebastiansky, and I'm here because I need a requirement for a Boy Scout merit badge. I have to attend a meeting, and I have to see both sides of an argument. And then I have to-
You don't want us to argue, do you?
I know.
You won't find that here.
We discussed the chair quite lively. That was as close as we get.
I know.
Thank you.
And you live in Raymond?
Yeah.
Okay.
And who was your first grade teacher?
Who was your most favorite first grader?
That was cool.
And whose mother is an Olympic athlete?
Oh.
Wow.
Christina is an Olympic athlete. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Once you are, you always are. It doesn't go away. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for picking us. You probably could have gone somewhere else and you chose us. Thank you.
If you watch the video of the the June 28th meeting, you can see us argue.
True story.
No, we didn't.
we-
Yeah.
we talked
Okay, so
about
committee reports. Let's start with, anything with finance?
No,
Nope.
the last meeting
Last-
was about the state subsidy.
Right.
What was it, August 16th?
Facilities page?
The only thing regarding facilities is I believe we've been notified that we're being toured for our application in November.
Correct.
Mm.
And the last I had heard, and maybe the date had changed, but April is when we will get the results of that. There's been some informal discussion about legwork prior to getting that decision, so that maybe
Mm.
whichever way, Plan A or Plan B, we might be ready to go. So the committee hasn't met yet, but I suspect that will be
It's on the horizon.
on the horizon, and we'll be discussing that.
Okay, great. Well,
I'm sorry?
Touring the middle school.
well,
Touring the middle school? They will be coming to tour the middle
Yeah.
school, yes.
Okay, seeing
The
as,
state officials.
seeing as we're on facilities, why don't we go to the joint,
Shared maintenance
Shared.
facility.
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, wait a minute, isn't joint.
All right.
I knew there was another title wrong.
What about the technology committee?
Huh? I'm not done with the committees yet. I'm still on the
We
facility
haven't done it yet.
type.
All right, so we have got a meeting coming up tomorrow, 6 o'clock in the bus garage. What's going around right now is basically the final draft of the flyer that we're going to be passing out. Excerpts from this is going to be going into the local newspapers. I'll just kind of go over briefly what we're doing with the meetings and what our plan of attack is. And then Tony and Don actually had a conversation today, is that correct?
Yes, we did.
So I'll let you dive into that piece, if you don't mind.
No, I don't, no, right
Okay.
now.
Just give me a minute and
Sure.
I can kind of go over a couple of these things. So basically, this is a two-sided thing, two-sided flyer that we're going to be handing out. Couple of things that we're talking about doing is a site landing page. So basically, whenever you go to the town website, there's going to be a banner that kind of flashes across the screen, just getting the information out there. The other thing that we are curious about is whether or not we might be able to do the same thing with the RSU website. Just whenever you go to the RSU 14 homepage, there's a banner right there. You click X to get it out of your way, and you keep going on just to get the information out. We are working on social media posting materials to be scheduled out. Everything is going to be coming out in a timeline. We are putting together a slide posting for the TV Channel 7. And we are going to be working on a PowerPoint presentation for the meeting and possibly meeting with community groups. So once we have that information, I might kind of sneak in on a PTA meeting or something like that and ask for 5 minutes of their time just to kind of get the information out there. And then on September 12th, there will be a live press conference. We are not sure as to whether or not that press conference is going to be at 11 a.m. or it's going to be at 1 p.m. I will have that information tomorrow. And there will be a couple of speaking roles. I guess myself will be speaking as well as Dave and Tony. Basically just trying to kick off the campaign. Once we start the campaign, we will probably be going pretty steady right up until Election Day. The person that we have helping us put together this information, she's very experienced with dealing with voter type issues. She seems very well versed in what she's doing. She's laid out a timeline as to when we are going to be rolling some of this information out and how we will be rolling it out. The biggest piece that they are trying to accomplish is just getting the information out there, because this is an off election year. There's not a lot happening. So there's not really that oomph to get a lot of people to the polls to kind of vote. So we have to try and get the information out there and, you know, let the voters make the decision. So this will be going out, I believe what you have right here will be going out on September 12th. I will be sending out an email to everybody, letting you know what exactly is the process, and if you can make it on September 12th, that would be wonderful, just to kind of show support behind the town as solidarity, kind of give that image. So if it is going to be at the town garage. So one thing that they are going to be working on I believe that they already started working on it, was they were shooting a video of all the inefficiencies of the facility and trying to show what can be done and what we are aiming for. So, Don, if you don't mind,
No, I
kind
don't.
of sharing some of the financial piece.
I don't at all, thank you. So I think the board will remember that back in June, a presentation was brought before you by the joint committee to educate you as to what the project is, as well as to talk about two models, two fiscal models. One was called the partnership model, the other one was called the straight lease model. My recollection of that night is, and I'll describe that a little bit, is that the school board gave a head nod. It wasn't a formal vote, but it was a head nod that it seemed to make more sense to have the partnership model than the lease model, and so now I'll describe that, which is to say, we are a quasi-municipal entity as RSU 14, clearly the town is, so we would probably need some kind of an interlocal agreement, a legal agreement between the two parties when that time comes, to the extent that the public votes for this project. In any event, the notion was that the reason that the partnership model probably worked better for the district and the town was that essentially what we're saying is you will be a partner in the cost, the bond of the project for the 20 years that it's live, if you will, and at the end of that term, your component of the bond payment would go away, so you would not have a lease payment. If you go strict lease, then in perpetuity, conceivably, you'd have a lease payment. So the notion was that we would be in partnership with an interlocal agreement. The way that that was derived, as I understand things, was that the square footage was arrived at in terms of the usage between RSU 14 and the town, as well as some of the common area spaces, and that it's roughly in the 75 to 25% realm, so that the responsibility of the district would be at 25% and the town would be at 75%. It also includes that same share for the lights, for the oil, for repairs and maintenance. So it's a true partnership all the way based on the 75-25. So the upkeep component would continue into the future, whereas the bond would end. And Tony had worked with financial institutions to try to give us an idea about what the bond would cost. I agree with his term. He calls it a sophisticated guess, because remember, you know, they're still nailing down the price. We don't really know what the interest rates are going to be. We have kind of suffered from this when we built the Wyndham High School, as you recall, trying to educate the community as to the finances when we didn't really have hard and fast numbers. But essentially, the way that these bonds are sold is it's not quite like a home mortgage. The interest rates are sold at different times, so the high payment for the district would be in the realm of $180,000 annually, going down to about $120,000 over the term of 20 years. Clearly, you know, that's roughly $3.2 million over 20 years when you look at the bond schedule, and we're currently paying about $20,000 a year between the lease for the building and the lease for the portable, which incidentally, as you know, we've gone to a lease buy for that building, so we're going to own that in 3 years, as a side note. But in any event, it's a lot of money, but on the other hand, we know that for us to try to source land and to build our own facility, think about that just a little bit, in terms of the garage, the wash facility, the fueling, the water, in terms of the washing, would be anywhere from $3 to $8 million initially, and you'd have your own bond. So this, I think, makes sense for, personally, I think this makes sense for both the RSU and the town. But I think, you know, what you'll be taking a formal vote, because you'll have an interlocal agreement that you're going to have to review. But I'm sensing that what people want to know is that you still are kind of on board for that concept. And I don't expect that you're going to vote on it, but I do think that as they try to roll this thing out, that if the board continues its head nodding, that would be helpful for them to know. Not to put pressure on the board, but just to let you know that might be helpful, but that's a board's decision, so.
Well, at what point would we vote?
When you know what the numbers are, which is gonna.
So when it's hard and fast?
When it's hard and fast.
But if we could do a head nod tonight, and the only reason I say that is that meeting that you've, is
It's
the
on
12th
Tuesday.
is on Tuesday. So I think there has to be hopefully some assurance that, you know, we are on board with this before they get up, or everybody gets up in public and says we are and we aren't, you know.
Are we trying to pick
So-
a direction versus lease versus bond?
Well,
Or are we
partnership,
just right now nodding our head to go in that direction rather it be lease or bond?
no, we'd be head nodding, in my view, towards the partnership model.
Which I think makes sense, but I'm just curious, maybe, has Pete run the numbers as a commercial lender of how that looks?
I don't know the numbers.
Okay.
Nobody knows the numbers.
I certainly could, but Don, if you can refresh my memory again, I asked it at the time that we discussed this last, but sometimes my memory doesn't serve me well. How does this partnership work in terms of the district taking on debt service for a new construction when there's the cost-sharing component between Wyndham and Raymond?
Well, it will be, again, you will own no property in Wyndham of this garage. You know what I mean? So you're basically gonna have an interlocal agreement that says that you agree to pay this amount of money based on the bond, and you still then, from an operating budget standpoint, will have that expense. So that $180,000 will be expensed in the same way that the current arrangement is expensed.
So, but once the bond's paid off, we won't have any more payments because we're not under a lease, but we
Right.
won't have any ownership as well?
That's correct.
And so what protections do we have at that point? If we don't own it,
I think that will be something that's negotiated in the interlocal agreement. You know, whether or not that's gonna be 50 years or 40 years, I don't know. I don't know how far into perpetuity we can take this thing, but that certainly would be an interest of the board, to try to expand that. There's responsibility on both parties. I think there'll probably be, as we just think this through a little bit, opportunities for both the town to come to us with plenty of time to say, this isn't working for us for these reasons, and it may be that we're in a position where we're feeling that way and you folks need to get out. So it's gonna be a legal agreement that you're clearly gonna need to be involved in the development and success of. I can't answer those questions until the negotiation.
yeah, I just want to make sure that we have some
Yeah.
protection for a long period of time, that,
Right.
you know, that we don't just get left out after it's paid off.
Right.
But if we went
go
with the
that way,
lease,
Have we gotten numbers on, I know that's not the direction we wanna go, I know you guys are deeper than some of us are, but have we gotten the numbers of what a lease would be?
Well, the lease would, yeah, actually, it was in, I don't know if I can quickly find that for you, but it,
but
let me think.
while you're looking for that
Yeah.
though, how many years is the lease though? The lease,
Well, the lease is in perpetuity.
so the lease would go on
Right.
whatever and could never be changed?
Well, it would be changed. I would
Probably
think
have
there'd be
step-ups.
interviews with, they're gonna wanna increase the lease
Right.
based on the changing economic.
Yeah, right, so there is
Condition.
no, right, so there is no safeguard in a
No,
lease
the-
either.
Yeah, I
guess
think
is
as
where
we
I'm
looked
going.
at it, I don't think I can quickly answer that,
Okay.
because I just don't have the data.
But it's not like they get another tenant real conveniently either.
Right.
Yeah, but they could downsize the building. If we didn't go with them, I mean.
Oh, but we're not
upfront.
talking down the road.
Yeah.
If we're not gonna own something,
Kind of taking it's gonna be a quick
Probably be happy to
chance
wait.
at that.
I'm not saying that's the way to go, I would wanna see all of it, so that I could use.
So what's the thinking?
I didn't.
I'm for one facility, because I think the taxpayers benefit out of paying for one facility instead of two facilities, one better facility, so I'm for the facility. I don't know if I can tell you that which way I think was better, but I'll go with, I know Don's a very smart guy, so, and if he's leading in a direction, I would, if I was to hedge a bet, I'd bet with him.
Okay, Kate?
No, I fully support it, yeah.
Yeah. Scott?
Behind it.
I am too. Diana?
It appears to be the most efficient
So,
solution.
I think, forgive me, because it's your role, not mine, but I'm thinking this sounds like an imprimatur for Scott and Kate to be able to communicate that there's
Yeah,
a
but
general.
let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Janie, I'm
I'm-
sorry.
yeah.
I want everybody to have
I
their
want to
say.
nod my head.
Yeah. Sorry.
Wait a minute, it's coming around. Anna?
I'm on board with the theory of it so far. You know, before I jump in all the way, I want more details, but it
Mhm.
sounds like the right direction so far.
So it sounds like we're giving a head nod to being in favor of the facility, but I think what Don's looking for is a head nod in terms of which way we'd prefer to go.
Right, the-
Lease or-
Yes.
I think you have, it's your role as a board to make that determination, so you're all exactly right. You need to have the data and make your own determination about that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give a recommendation, because I always do, but you're gonna do what you
And
think
we,
you
and we
need.
rely on it, I mean, we
Yeah.
count on that, that's good.
So without the
Scott, is it meeting
numbers,
tomorrow?
I'm just looking down the road. Would this agreement start in the works, like you would be working with our attorneys and their attorneys to put together this, what do you call it, inter or whatever?
In a local agreement.
Interlocal
I don't think
agreement.
you would until the public voted the building. There's no
Right.
point in
Okay.
spending money with the attorney, I don't think, at this point.
I guess I'm just
Right.
back to the two choices.
Right, and
Knowing
some
what's in
questions are
there, what the
answered.
safeguards are in that agreement.
I personally feel as though that, regardless of the choice, in order for, me to stand up in front of the cameras, I would like to just know whether or not I have support from the board.
Right.
And I don't think that deciding how we are going to, do the interlocal agreement, whether it be a lease or whether it be a shared facility type of thing, like Don had kind of laid out. I think that those kind of, I think that can be ironed out once we figure out whether or not the voters actually approved it.
So really, they just want a united stand.
I think they really just want a united stand. I think that's the biggest thing. But personally, I'm for the shared.
Sounds like you
I'm
understand.
well, yeah.
United we stand.
I think I think it'll be much easier when there's when there's figures that you
And
can
we will have that
look
information, I believe, on Tuesday. I believe we might actually have the figures tomorrow, but they were really gunning to have those figures absolutely deadlocked by the press conference date.
So as you think about the lease versus, we're gonna have a general idea, as we said earlier, a sophisticated guess on the bond. It's not concrete, but it's pretty close. And then, I know Tony did work on surveying local communities about what lease rates were per square foot. So I have that, I just don't have it tonight. That's all gonna be part of your decision-making down the road. But I do think people are gonna start asking who's paying for what, so.
Right, I agree.
But I think but I think you can honestly stand up there though and say, that we're gonna be part of this partnership. We haven't delineated exactly how we're gonna be part of it yet, but we're definitely gonna be, what role we take. But we're definitely gonna be part of it, and we will not own any of the building.
I think
We do know that.
I also, I share some of Pete's, concerns, and I would actually like to invite Tony to a board meeting once he gets these concrete numbers, so that he can share his information with the entire board,
Good
so
idea.
that we can all kind of mull it over and
Yeah,
see which direction we want to go.
good idea.
So,
So you all set for,
I think so. PTA? Yeah, I'm not, somebody's gonna have to
For
give me some
Tuesday?
guiders on that one.
you
Oh,
all
for
set?
Tuesday? Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Tuesday.
PTA, I'm a little nervous about.
Did you sign up for PTA?
No.
Oh,
Gonna have to plug in a lot.
yeah. Anyway, are you set, Dawn? Or do
I
you-
am set,
Okay,
thank you.
we are all set with that. Okay, Kate, policy?
I know you're probably getting tired of me
Go at
mentioning this
graduation.
policy, but we actually are meeting for facilities use policy on the 21st. We are on draft 10. And we hope to nail it down. The vision is, this is a big community policy because a lot of community folks take advantage of our fine facilities, and our hope is that we can nail down the fee schedule and the policy, which there are quite a few changes, to be really honest, and have a lot of time for public input from all the stakeholders, and there's been some discussion about sending out the final draft to anyone who has ever used our facilities so that they are in the loop. The timing is a little, in a perfect world, I would have preferred for this to have been done and started at the beginning of the school year with all of the preliminary work and conversation with all the stakeholders, but it's not a perfect world. And so the next best thing would be to soon finalize the policy, have public input with the notion that January 1st is when we would implement it. And that would give the public time to plan. A lot of these folks are in our system like months in advance. So it's not fair to them at this point to say, oh, by the way, we're raising your rate. We want to be fair about it and completely transparent. So that's the hope. So we'll keep you in the loop on that.
Anything on the graduation policy?
No, there isn't. We're still on hold. We haven't met again. As you know, we had put together a revised graduation policy, which is a very high stakes policy, and got information from the state that our policy might not fly. And it was particularly the special ed piece. So folks in the background are gathering information. We'll be having another meeting we just want to get it right the first time around. And sometimes we're quick to be the forefront and get something out of the chute, but this is really, really important. We want to get it right. So we're not close to coming before the board yet on that one. The other one that's really important that we really have to get on is the grading and reporting policy, which Sandy, I know, is working on the format of that, how we're going to proceed, because that will involve all of the administrators giving their input. And that's a very high stakes policy as well. It's a very public, how we're going to report out grades. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Great, thanks. Technology?
Haven't met yet.
You haven't met?
Such a busy after all of that.
The technical schools have not met. Their first meeting is later this month, so we'll be meeting then. Did I miss a committee? I don't think
We can ask Genevieve about student council.
I didn't get there yet.
Okay.
Before we get to Genevieve, though, Sandy?
Yeah, just the opening school went very well. When you think about closing down a school system in June and opening up for Labor Day, a lot of energy goes into that. And kudos to Bill Hanson and his staff getting the buildings cleaned, teachers, support staff, kitchen crew, transportation, really everybody did an exceptional job. I did not really get any complaints about the opening school, so I assume things really came together, and it's because it's a great team. So thank you, everybody, for a great opening.
Okay. Genevieve, is our new representative, if there is anything you would like to share, you can. And we're really interested about our, I don't know if we're going to call them luncheons or breakfast this year.
Yeah.
Did we set?
Brunch.
I don't know what we decided on.
Mix it up, do both.
Mixed them up, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the start of school went great. Everything seems to be going pretty smoothly. I know all the differences with grading and like with the freshmen, like they're getting graded differently. And so it kind of depends on like what class you're in. If you're in a class that has underclassmen in it, then you're graded differently. So I know that's been like a little bit of a confusion, but other than that, I think everything has been going well. And as far as the next thing, so I don't go to those meetings. I'm not part of.
Well, could you check with Holly?
Yes, I will.
Because she
Because I should be.
helped.
Yes.
She helped
Okay.
coordinate that, and she usually sends us out a schedule for the year.
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, when,
I would love
when
to
we're gonna
see
have
that.
them. But she can contact any of us if
Mhm.
she wants to discuss it further, you know. And a mix-up is kinda good about, you know, between lunch, which is breakfast for some people, it's kind of early in the day, or really breakfast, you know. It seemed to work out pretty good because we have board members who can make an early one, and then we have board members who do better making a later one, so if you can get us some
Yeah,
information on
for
that,
sure.
or have her get back to us.
Yeah.
And I know you haven't been here before, but if there is anything going on at the school, or anything that anybody in the school, council, anyone thinks that we should be aware of, you're very welcome to bring that to the
Okay.
board anytime that you come here,
Awesome.
okay? Alrighty.
Madam Chair, before we move on to the next agenda item, we need to make an amendment to item 10 on the agenda. I checked all the things on the minutes themselves are fine, but if you look at our agenda for tonight, it says we're approving the minutes of the June 28th, 2017 meeting, which is what I read. It's actually the minutes of the August 16th
Aha.
meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What would we do without you?
So,
See, he felt bad, because when I asked, he said, oh, I meant to
Yeah,
add
he's
it.
like, look at it, darn it.
Must have missed that, so if we could have a,
so don't look
An
at the June
amendment.
28th videotape, look at the August 16th one.
Right.
That's what kind of went in my head, I was like, wait a minute,
so if we could have an amendment to that motion,
how do we do that?
you can make a motion to. you
I
can make a
move to
motion
amend the motion
Yep.
to approve the minutes of the June 28th, 2017 meeting. I want to amend that to be approving the minutes of the August 16th, 2017 meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
And now we have to make a motion for the amended thing?
No, because you've just amended it
We just have to
separately.
No.
We had already done the other one. This is an amended motion.
But we don't have to vote on it again.
But anyway, we still have to, all those in favor? Okay, thank you.
So we made a motion to amend the motion?
No, we don't have to
No.
vet, we don't have to
We
vote
don't
on
have to
the,
now because,
you know the Robert's Rules of Order.
Right, I do, but I don't remember this one.
because we didn't do it in the middle of.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we don't have to go back. We didn't amend it in the middle of the motion.
All right.
We
Oh,
would have had
okay,
to.
yeah,
Pete, you're confusing it.
okay.
She's making things right.
Good, thank you.
I don't think there are any more committees. Okay, we're going to do board roundtable before we go into executive session because we will not be going back on camera, so. Kate?
I don't have anything, I'm just curious, which I know you'll get to at some point, the format for the board retreat. So I'm interested in learning more about that.
I have not much. It sounds like the Wyndham football team was off to a good start. It looks like they beat Shivers. I wasn't there, but that's what I heard. They beat.
Thought it was daring.
Shivers, right?
Oh. Speak to Dave. He went to the game and told me it was daring.
And they love the Rams.
I don't know who you
Yeah,
talked to.
no, Stags.
Anyway, it sounds like they're off to a good start because that's usually a good indicator.
Forest
Yeah.
creatures.
Yeah.
Very strong team. So
I'm Scott.
there we go.
Diana?
No.
Jenny?
I'm all set, thanks.
I know that it's very early to think about Christmas,
Oh, gosh.
but if you haven't heard yet, Wyndham Chamber Singers every year does their American Family Holiday. And every year they bring in a really awesome guest. This year they have a fabulous actress by the name of Mandy Gonzalez. She's currently starring in Hamilton on Broadway as Angelica Schuyler. She's been Elphaba in Wicked. So not only is it cool, the tickets will go on sale soon. They'll sell really fast, but they don't just come and sing for us and do a great show. The actors actually come and spend the day with the students. So it's a really cool thing, and shout out to Dr. Nickerson for nabbing that one. And the kids really do, if you call and get tickets, you're gonna talk to one of the Wyndham Chamber Singers. They're the ones that, the envelope will come addressed, handwritten by one of them. They really are the ones that put it all together, so keep your eyes open, because this year's gonna be really big and they're gonna go real fast.
You have connections to get us front row seats?
We do, family members get a pre-sale, but we only can reserve 10 tickets, and we're already a large family, so sorry, guys. But I'll wave at you from my seats.
Pete?
All set.
Genevieve?
All set.
Okay, I don't think I have anything. I do not. Okay, so we are going to go into executive session and discuss the contract negotiations regarding the agreement between the board and the Sebago East Shore Education Association, which happens to be the teachers union.
You may as
So-
well just have read the motion.
Yeah, I
You
just
kind of read the motion. Does
I
it-
move
does
to
it
enter
count?
into executive session to discuss contract negotiations regarding the agreement between the board and the Sebago East Shore Education Association pursuant to MRSA subsection 4056D and not return to regular meeting.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? It is unanimous. We are in executive